Hi, everyone, and welcome to my second video in this series. Today, I'm going to cover the unusual whales options alerts and how I use these and how you can as well. So you probably have seen these before. We have a link in the Discord, or if you subscribe to their service or follow them on Twitter, you see these alerts pop up, and I want to break down exactly what's happening with these and how you can use them to find entries, also to see sort of just what's going on in the market. Now, first of all, my strategy does use these alerts, not really as the primary method to find different plays throughout the day. I focus on the option flow more generally and sort of find things there. But the alerts are a really good resource, and you can have a lot of success using these. The first thing I would say about it is that these are not buy signals. They're not taking into account what's going on in the market at that particular moment. They're not accounting for the charts on any time frame or anything like that. They're unusual. It's an algorithm that the people behind Unusual Whales developed in order to find options that are out of the ordinary for some reason. And there are dozens throughout the day. And if you were to just start entering them as they pop up, you're probably going to lose money. That being said, most of the alerts actually are profitable. I think their rates, the last I looked, is like 70% or something like that. But what that can mean is that over the life of that option, it's eventually turns a profit. Some of them turn profit, really quickly. So what you need to do if you want to use these is have some criteria in mind that help you narrow things down and focus your attention. So I'm going to take you through that. So one thing that I do is I look for calls over puts. This is a preference of mine. But it's grounded in the statistics that their calls actually are more successful than the put alerts. And that doesn't mean to never play put alerts, but I tend to look at calls first. And from there, I look at the ask side. So if you're on a call, and like you can see here, and that's an ETF. I don't want to do that one. Let me see. Okay, so EQT. This was alerted on the 14th in the afternoon. And you can see it's on the bid side and it's bearish. This means that this is a sold call. And so the person who did this is actually selling this call, and they're not looking for the underlying price to go up. So if you were to buy it, you might end up on the right side. Like here, you see it did go up a bit, but this is an alert I would stay away from for a number of reasons. And the first being that it is on the bid side. So I look at the ask side first. Now the next thing I look at is the volume. That's in this column. Oops. Yeah. Let me go to the top. Okay, so that's in this volume here, and I look for a volume over 100,000. I want to find options that have a lot of buying power behind them, and some of the alerts are really small, like this one's 31,000. I wouldn't really be interested in that, even though it is bullish and it is on the ask side. So I'm looking for the higher dollar amounts here, and you can see, I mean, 100,000 is it's somewhat of an arbitrary number, but you want a higher volume. Sometimes ones in the 90s are fine to look at if they meet some of my other criteria. The next thing I look at is implied volatility. Now, implied volatility it take a lot more to explain than I'm planning on in this video. But what I can say is that when the implied volatility is extremely high, your risk is extremely high, because those alerts, those stocks, that premium is going to jump around dramatically. Now that can work in your favor sometimes. BBIG is one I hopped in on Friday, and we're really familiar with that one in the Discord, and those price jumps that it has, dramatically can move the price of the option. But what I'm looking for a safe entry that I'm going to play during the day or hold over several days. I want a lower number there, and what I look for is an implied volatility of 50 to around 100. And again, those numbers aren't absolute, but that's the range. That's the range that I'm looking for. I want a safe entry that's going to increase my profit as the stock goes up, but I'm not looking for one that's going to put me up 30% and down 20% in a span of 5 minutes. So that's not what I'm after. So that's that. Okay. So I look at, again, volume over 100,000, implied volatility 50 to 100. The next thing I'm looking for are options that are slightly out of the money. So I avoid leaps. I avoid options that are deep in the money. Those are part of strategies that as a day trader, swing trader, are not really that useful to me. As an investor, there's plenty of reasons to do that. But when you're just looking to enter a contract and get that increase in the premium over the short term, you want those slightly out of the money options, because what it signals is that the whales who are buying those are likely going to try to push that price up in the short term, and that's what I want when I'm playing an option during the day or holding it overnight. I want to see them push those options towards being in the money in the short term. For expiration, I don't play the weekly alerts. You certainly can. There's more risk there, but I try to look at alerts that are 2 to 4 weeks out. And the best times for alerts, and this is just in my experience, are Monday morning, Tuesday morning, and Friday afternoon. I've had the most success with those. There's some data to support that I've read as well. But there are winning alerts at all times of the day, and the most important thing I would say is that they meet these criteria that I've laid out. So I want to show you one that meets the criteria, and where I would go if I were to enter that. All right, so let me take us to Friday morning. Here it is. Okay, so XPEV had a very good day. You can see that the max gain on this one ended up being 81%. Wasn't particularly on my radar that morning, but it meets the criteria, and this would be a really good one. Now, as you look back on previous alerts, you can kind of drive yourself crazy that, oh, I can't believe I didn't see that. That alert was, that alert was perfect. And hindsight is 2020 with this, of course. But let's take a look. So it's an option. And one thing I should mention too is my price range. You've seen this on my alerts. I look for anywhere from $48 to $100 is sort of my range. So that's another criteria as well. And this one's $48. Now it's daily volume. It's not 100K, but it's pretty close. You can see that it is bullish. It's on the ask side. So this means that this whale is buying these calls. It's a few weeks away on its expiration, and its implied volatility is within the range that I look for. So, if I were to see this alert pop up and consider playing it intraday, I would then do the following. So you click on the alert itself, and it gives you, its historical performance and all that. But the main thing I'm looking at here is, here's the 10 big option trades recently. Now, this is something that you used to have to really dig into the option flow to find. And I do still look over there, but this is kind of a nice cheat sheet that can tell you that the activity on this in its recent trades is completely bullish. And this particular alert is not part of any kind of multi-leg strategy or hedge or anything like that. So so this looks good. This is very, very promising. I would look in the flow overall as well, and call up XPEV and see that again, the activity is looking very, very bullish. I have it on $10,000, which is a pretty good range for a stock of this price. You can take it higher and see it's going in as well. And by the way, this red line here means that this whale exited this position. So they closed those contracts, which is good to know. And again, this is looking really good. So not only did XPEV run on Friday, if I were to enter this and watch the flow throughout the day, as I scale out profits, I would likely keep a couple of these contracts into the next week. It's sort of, it's worth the risk when you have that much flow backing you up. Okay, so to get back to this alert. So everything looks good. This meets all the criteria I would look for. And at that point, you have to decide, okay, when am I going to enter this trade? So this was alerted at 9:12 on Friday. So let me go into the 5-minute chart here. So you can see it was in the process of this big run, and it was alerted about right here. So if you were on top of this and then watching, you can see it was in a little bit of a moment of consolidation before continuing to run. If you saw the alert and then it was, and you saw it 30 minutes later and it's up here, this is not a good entry point. The RSI is ridiculously high at this moment. So what you want to do is you wait for it to dip a bit, try to catch it down here. Ideally, it would drop a little further, but it had just too much momentum. So this would have been a decent entry, and you would have made some profit along here, and then you can make a decision on what to do in terms of holding it. And again, looking back on a chart that already happened, the entries are obvious, but I think just in general, I'm not going to enter something where the RSI is just crazy high, like up here. I ideally want to enter under 50, and if a little lower, that'd be great too. So you look at the 5-minute chart. I think it's good also to look at the higher time frames as well. So like the, you can see the hourly chart. This stock's really making a pretty big run. The daily chart, it's still got some, potentially some room to go. The higher this is, the more, the higher your risk is though. So good candidate for a day trade possibly. You're certainly not catching the bottom here or anything, but the stock has a lot of momentum. Indications are, they might want to push this higher, and the underlying, this is an out of the money option, couple weeks out, so it's a good candidate for sure. Others, let me just find another example here, and we'll go back a little earlier. So like Thursday afternoon. So let's say I'm just looking for a potential play, overnight or something. And so here we have one bullish on the ask side, UAL stock I played a few times, and this meets my criteria as well. IV looks decent. Volume, again, it's not 100K, but it's pretty good. Price is right. This is a couple more weeks out. It is out of the money. I click here and look at some recent activity. Not fully bullish, but these premiums are really small. So the larger orders look good. And then in the flow, this looks pretty promising as well. Click on this and can see that, 1029, very bullish on the ask side, 58%, decent bet. And so on, 1022, I mean, this is a stock, this has earnings next week, and you're kind of, sort of mixed for next week. But it's a good candidate potentially for a run up to earnings. If I found the right spot on the chart, I could look to enter that, and something I might hold overnight. I did that with Delta. Delta was sort of similar to UAL, and we had some success on that on Friday. So okay, so that's how I play alerts. That's how I narrow them down, and I can take you to my notes here. Let me switch my documents. Okay, so calls over puts, look for ask side alerts, volume near or over 100,000, implied volatility from 50 to 100. I look for slightly out of the money, expiration 2 to 4 weeks out, and my best success Monday morning, Tuesday morning, Friday afternoon. And when you see an alert, you don't obviously have to enter at that moment or at that day. Be picky with your premiums, be picky with your entries. And alerts, this is another statistic from Unusual Whales, alerts that are already up 10% have a high probability of going over 30%, 30 to 100%. So the alerts that already have some momentum behind them are definitely ones that you want to consider targeting, and spend some time just watching these. I mean, you don't have to put real money out there, but use these criteria, develop your own, and see how successful you are. Find an alert that you like, and find where you might enter, and then see how it does. That kind of trading, whether it's paper trading or just doing it manually, is something you can do where you can really learn a lot. A couple other notes about the alerts, just for me. You do want to check the alerts, see the full context of that option. I do that as well, and it's definitely something you want to look at. You want to check the sentiment of that stock and the overall flow, which I modeled for you here, where you look at how it's doing that day over the past several days. Before you consider entering, make sure to check relevant ETFs and futures for overall market sentiment. For airline stocks, I look at Jets, for example. That's an ETF that for airline stocks, so you can see how your stock is doing in relation to that. Check your chart on the 5, 15 minute, 1 hour, and daily for an entry point. And alerts overall, they're worth watching throughout the day. If you're someone who monitors option flow more generally, you can kind of see them coming. When BBIG was just going crazy, all of a sudden alerts start popping up, and some of those alerts were bearish. They're sold calls. So a stock goes on a euphoric run, whales step in, they start selling calls to retail traders like us. They trap them up at the top, and they lose money. It's something I look at all the alerts every day, and they can reveal things. It's just sort of part of the bigger picture. Unusual Whales does alert ETFs as well, and I don't play those. There's a lot going on with those. I mean, they're heavily hedged, and a lot of them are leaps, and just whales kind of doing their thing. But those two can provide a quick reference for market sentiment. I see 3 or 4 SPY puts throughout the day, and the alerts. I'll look into that, and I might be more cautious about my positions if things are looking bearish. I might exit, take profits more quickly, hold less, etc. So it's a really useful thing. If you have your favorite tickers, your stocks that do well, and they pop up in the Unusual Whales alerts a lot, you can go back and look at those and see when they were alerted, what happened. So it's another tool to use. It's not just buy signals. You shouldn't just load up on a dozen things that they alert in a given day. That's not a way to make money. But if you tackle this with a plan and with discipline, it can be a really useful part of your strategy. So I want to thank you guys for watching. I really enjoy making these. I'm glad that people are finding them useful. My next video is going to cover ETFs, ETF flow, and how you can utilize Unusual Whales to capture overall market sentiment, and even to enter plays on SPY, QQQ, and a number of other ETFs. So I'll have that one for you probably early this week, and I will see you guys in the Discord. Thank you.